Hoy there, chummers, and welcome to the Sixth World, the show where we just sit around and chat about all things Shadowrun. Now, the other day I got a question posed to me on the review that I did of the Vice sourcebook for Shadowrun 4th Edition. Vice, of course, is the Criminal Underworld sourcebook for that particular edition of Shadowrun. I will go ahead and link the review in the little card thingy. I don't know what it's called. The thingy up at the top. Go ahead and click that. At some point during this video, it'll pop up there. Probably not now because I don't go back and listen to my own voice when I shoot those things up there. But that's neither here nor there. So the question that was posed was whether or not the source book was worth buying, because this particular person, they had already bought two of the 3rd edition source books. It was Mob War and something Underworlds. I want to say Shadows of the Underworld or something like that. I don't remember. I know the source book. I haven't read it. I've seen it though. It's on the tip of my tongue. I think it's Shadows of the Underworld. But that makes no sense. I don't know. You all probably know what I'm talking about. If the person who asked the question is listening, they definitely know what I'm talking about. But they already had those two source books, which, from what I understand, I haven't read either one of those, but both of them contain just a wealth of information and adventures on Shadowrun's Seattle's. God, it's one of those days today. They contain a wealth of information on Seattle's shifting underworld and just some underworld information for Shadowrun in particular. And he wanted to know whether Vice City was going to be a good buy, given that he already had those particular source books. And I said yes. Yes, Vice City is a very good buy. Vice City. I did this in a previous take. You know what? Screw it. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to edit it out. I've got GTA on the mind for some reason, especially with regards to this source book. But yeah, I said yes. It is a very good buy. Go ahead and you can feel good about going ahead and getting the source book. Now, that kind of got me thinking. And my reasoning for that was because there's a wealth of information in it. It's updated information if you're playing Shadowrun 4th Edition, so you get kind of a better idea of something. And it's more global than Mob War and the other book war. So it doesn't just concentrate on Seattle. It also introduces other criminal gangs and personalities and entities in other places of the world, and also kind of updates the timeline for 4th edition with regards to the underworld. So yeah, I said yeah, definitely it's a great buy. Go ahead and get it. My reasoning behind that was regardless of what you do with it, whether you use the actual rules, and it's been a while since I've flipped through that book, but I don't think there were a whole lot of rules necessarily in that book. But regardless of whether or not you use any of the rules or anything like that, there's a lot of information contained in that source book, and this is the same for pretty much any source book in Shadowrun, especially with the 3rd edition Shadowrun, the second and 3rd edition. 3rd edition more so, I think, but 2nd edition definitely. Especially with those source books, there's just a wealth of information contained in there, contained in Vice, and if nothing else, it gives you a lot of ideas for like plot hooks and adventure seeds and just direct that you can pull and use in your games no matter where you're at. And that kind of got me thinking, well, should somebody buy a particular source book if they have an older source book or even a newer source book that has roughly the same subject matter? So if you have Vice, should you buy Mob War, and vice versa? Or if you have, I don't know, pick a. My mind's going blank right now. Like I said, it's one of those days. But I pick a later edition source book versus a previous edition source book of the same type. Should you buy those source books between editions, and is it going to be worth it? And my answer is yes. It is 9 times out of 10 always going to be worth it. I don't think there's one single source book for Shadowrun that I've regretted buying because of the wealth of information that these books contain. Now, there have been some source books that I've bought and I've kind of flipped through, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really that interesting to me. I don't really want to read it. Because when I buy a Shadowrun source book, I read that direct cover to cover. Like, seriously. I will start at the beginning of a source book, especially if it is a very well written 3rd edition source book, because that is hands down my favorite edition of Shadowrun is 3rd edition. Even though I mostly run 4th edition because it's a little bit simpler than 3rd edition. But I usually will sit and read a source book cover to cover. And there's some source books that I try to do that and I can't do it, or I buy it and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, and I'll like look at a couple of different things in it, and like I'll be like, yeah, okay, not so much. But even those source books, which are few and far between, by the way, it seems to happen more with my 4th edition books than it does with my 3rd edition books. It's very rare that I don't actually like reading a source book, and it's, again, a couple of reasons. Number one, because just the sheer amount of information in some of them. There have been some of them that have had too much information, and so it kind of puts you on information overload, and you just kind of pick it up and you read through it, and you're like, I don't even know what the hell's going on. I'm just going to put this down and kind of put it off to the side. But even if I do put a source book down without having read the whole thing, I will go back to those source books if I need to look something up, or if I'm looking for, like, if I've got a game coming up like the next day and I'm scrambling for an adventure seed or something like that, I will pick that up. And I will look through it and see if it has anything in there. And just the potential for adventure seeds alone makes these source books of any edition really a pretty good buy. The other reason I would suggest getting source books, particularly the previous edition source books, and in particular the 2nd and 3rd edition source books, is because of the world building, especially in 3rd and 4th, or 2nd and 3rd edition. 4th edition, not so much necessarily, but 4th edition still had a lot of really good world-building books. Attitude is one that comes to mind for 4th edition. But the world-building in those 2nd and 3rd edition books, it's superb. Absolutely superb. And I think that is the big strength of those older books. You know, there's a lot of RPGs out there where D&D in particular is one where, you know, a new edition comes out, people move to that edition, and the old edition is never touched in any way, shape, or form because the mechanics are completely different. And you know, there might be a lot of information in those old D&D books, but a lot of people, particularly modern players, they just won't touch them because it's not their system. They don't update it. Now, Shadowrun has less of that problem because I think it's easier to adapt Shadowrun between editions. But as far as like other systems, generally when a system goes to another edition, that's it for the old books. They're out, they're gone. You never look at them again. But Shadowrun, the amount of world building that's in those books, you can go back to those older books and you can still get a really good sense for, you know, what was going on at the time in the Shadowrun timeline that affected the world, and how the events and personalities and the places and things and entities contained in this book related to the world, and even sometimes how it relates to the world beyond that edition. I've seen there's a bunch of times in Shadowrun in particular where what happens in a source book all the way back in second edition affects something way up in fourth edition, or affects some sort of event or something like that. So it is always, I think, a really good decision when you buy an older source book, or if you're playing an older edition, if you buy newer source books, because again, if nothing else, you are getting a wealth of potential adventure hooks, potential plot seeds, and potential NPCs that you can very easily take from that particular edition and throw it into whatever game you're playing at the time. It just hands down, just go buy Sourcebooks. If you get nothing else from this video, go buy the Sourcebooks. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave this video right here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you do what I do? Do you buy source books across the editions and kind of pick and choose what you want? Or do you stick with the source books from one particular edition because that's it. That's your jam. You love that edition. You don't want to touch any of the other stuff, and that's fine too if that's the case. But let me know in the comment section below, chummers, and I will see you all next time. And that's the chip truth, chummers. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more Shadowrun content. Hit that notification bell so you will always know when I upload a brand new Shadowrun video, and until next time, remember to shoot straight and never, ever deal with a dragon.